When something changes in our environment, we are instinctively drawn to that thing that's changing. And you can think of it, well, like if something moves next to you, then you tend to look over in that direction. You look at the thing that's moving. And there's a strong evolutionary reason for that, right? Because you want to know if there's something threatening that's coming into your vicinity. If there's a saber-toothed tiger that's coming over towards you, you probably want to know that sooner rather than later so that you can protect yourself. Well, it turns out that that instinct towards focusing on what's new, and earlier in the book, by the way, he talks about how your focus determines what is most important to you, right? So if you are focused on a thing, then you naturally think that that's the thing that's the most important to you. So the way that this can work for advertising or for marketing is that depending on the medium, so he says if it's a video, you can cut to a scene that's the most important. You can cause a change. So if I turn around like this, then you're going to suddenly pay attention more than before, because all of a sudden there is a change. And if I turn back around, same thing. You don't want to do that too much, because then people get kind of confused, people lose attention, and YouTubers are notorious for that these days. They have a cut scene like every 3 seconds because they think it'll keep attention, which actually it does keep attention, but at the same time, it kind of confuses people and it makes them less likely to remember what you said. So you don't want to overuse that, but if you use a selective cut like that to highlight an important point, like you make that change right before you say the thing that you believe is the most important for them to know or the most important for them to remember, or right before you make your sales pitch or whatever, then people will tend to think that that is the most important. They will tend to pay attention to it. He says that that's not used very much in advertising, but what is well used is the tendency to play up something as being new or as being unique. And if you know anything about copywriting, they talk about that all the time. No matter what your thing is, what your offer is, you always want to frame it as new in some way, or unique, or most people don't know about this. It's a secret, something like that. It's something that because we have this instinct for what's new, we want to frame that way in our copy. And then he mentioned a very interesting study too that shows that distinctiveness which is related to newness. So if you have multiple products, the one that's distinct is the one that's going to be perceived as the most valuable. So, another takeaway from that is you want to paint your thing as distinct as possible. And so he talked about a study in particular where there were 2 couches that were described and given the I'm not sure exactly what was given to the participants, but there's a description of each couch. And they were basically the same, except for one couch had softer cushions and one had harder, more long-lasting cushions. And so they sent out these descriptions and asked everybody to rate which one, or decide which one they would prefer to have, which couch they thought was better or more valuable. And the couch that had the harder and more durable cushions won by a small margin. Now, they repeated the same experiment, but with one twist, and that is that in addition to those 2 couches, they also added 3 more couches, all of which were inferior in a lot of ways to the original 2 couches, but all 3 of them also had the durable cushions. And so what ended up happening was that the vast majority of the respondents chose the couch that had lost in the previous experiment, the couch that had the softer cushions. Right, so it's interesting to see that, because actually it's weird to see a higher percentage for that couch, and a much higher percentage actually, considering that now there were more choices, right? You'd expect it to be lower, and it totally beat the couch that had beat it before. And the reason he says for that is because now 3 couches had the the durable cushions, now that was kind of the norm, and the one with the soft cushions was distinct. That was the one that was the odd man out. So, interesting point for marketing in the future is if you can show how your thing is distinct, if you can show how it's new and how it's distinct, and if you are communicating it via video. Or I could see how this would even work on a sales page, just like a written sales page. Like maybe you have the background color of the sales page is white, and then all of a sudden you get to a really important point, and then you like have a black background instead. So as soon as they scroll down to that part, all of a sudden it's a change of scenery. So hope that's helpful. Any questions or any thoughts, please let me know in the comments.